Today, welcome. And what we are talking about is Central and West London. I just got back from London. We were there last week with about 44 advisors, some of whom were based in London, and many of whom came in from all over the world to show up and tour hotels and learn about what's new and cool and amazing in one of our favorite cities anywhere. We're not going to cover all the hotels because there's way too many hotels in London. And we're not even going to cover all the neighborhoods because we could spend the entire hour talking only about that. So what we really wanted to do is focus just on the hotels that we toured with a few other tidbits about what else is in that neighborhood that we are also booking here at Forum. Now, here's the thing to know about London. It is massive and it is popular. So Visit Britain, we have a little stats this time, which I thought was kind of fun to share. So Visit Britain, which is their tourism board, was forecasting that they were on track for 35 million visits and almost $30 billion spent via tourism. They haven't released their final numbers yet, but let's just say tourism is big there. Yahoo, we looked at the data. What are people searching for? Yahoo reported that London was the most searched for global destination in 2023. The number one. It reported that London, in terms of bookings, was third, right behind Paris and Barcelona. I wanted to take a look at our numbers and see how this compares to what our community is booking. So for us, our top booked destination was New York City. Our second most booked destination was Paris, and our third was London. Barcelona actually for us was number 8. So I think it's interesting to look at that and see that there's some opportunity here, right? There's a lot of people searching for London, and London is not our top destination, but it's moving up there. It's pretty high. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here to learn more and book some more amazing trips for your clients. Okay, so why do people choose London? Well, part of it is just accessibility. It is a destination where there's a lot of accessibility in terms of the airports coming in and out, which we'll talk about. So it's easy to get there. It is a 4-season destination. So whether you're going in the summer, the fall, the winter, we were just there in January. Let me tell you, it was still about 10 degrees warmer than it is here in New York. And it was sunny, which no one expects, but it really is a city that you can go to year round. Exceptional food, exceptional hotels, which we'll talk about all the openings that are happening right now and renovations, nightlife, culture, you name it. It is a city that's really got a little bit for everyone. It's also a city that I will just say that as a mom traveling with kids, a lot of the times, it is a city that's very family friendly. So if you are talking to clients who have children, it is a place that you can go. There's lots of parks. There's an easy way to sort of integrate your culture and your learning with also some time on a playground, which is actually true whether you're a child or an adult. You need that downtime. I was just there for 2 days, but I would say ideal length of stay is probably 3 to 4 days. But again, sometimes people are doing a quick turnaround. They're flying to somewhere else. They're connecting through London and they just want to spend a quick couple of days as sort of a get over the jet lag on their way to somewhere else. And London is a great place to do that. If you have longer to stay, you can fill up an itinerary with really as many as like 5 nights, 7 nights. People do go and stay longer. However, there's a lot of day trips out of the side of the city that I would actually add into an itinerary if you're spending that much time. Let's talk about how to get there. So there are a few major airports. Heathrow is the one that most people are talking about. Then there's London Gatwick, London Stansted, and I will mention Luton because people call it London, but it's not really. So I think if you can avoid flying into Luton, which I have done on EasyJet, do because it's very far away. Most people will be coming in via Heathrow or Gatwick. Do not rent a car. You don't need a car in this destination. This is a place where you're going to be getting around on foot, on tube, and via taxi. One important thing to note here, the taxi drivers in London still have to pass an extensive test in order to be a licensed taxi driver. They are the way to go when you're in the city. Sure, you might take an Uber or in other places, but I actually really like to take a taxi in London. They are roomy and comfortable, and their drivers are so knowledgeable. You get like a little history tour anytime you go anywhere. So big fan of the traditional black cabs there. It's actually, they have to memorize 25,000 city streets. That is a little bit different than our New York taxi drivers. And you'll never get lost. It's really pretty easy to get around. And honestly, I end up doing a lot of walking when I'm there. So explore on foot and you can tell clients not to worry about it. Let's get started on what's new. I wanted to highlight 2 hotels that are opening that are a big deal. Mandarin Oriental, Mayfair. We're going to talk about Mandarin Oriental, Hyde Park. They have built a new hotel that's going to be opening this spring that is in Mayfair. It's going to be much smaller. It's only 50 rooms, I think, if I remember, a little bit more contemporary. It is going to be a place that families could stay, but also is a little bit more sort of couples oriented, sort of chic, upscale, and more boutique-y in Mayfair. And then the Emery, this is new from the Mayborn group, which I love. Again, that's Claridge's, that's Barkley. Emery is actually right around the corner from the Barkley, and that is also opening this spring. Design forward, contemporary, and right next to the Barkley. So two really notable openings that are happening in the spring. But we are going to start in on the Holborn and the Bloomsbury neighborhood. I will call this also just central London, because I think often if you're not familiar with the neighborhoods in London, if you say, oh, it's in Holborn, they may not know what that means. Just call it central London. And we'll talk a little bit about what is around there to understand what is this neighborhood. It is historic and academic. It's got some great museums. It is definitely busy. It feels really city, very urban, lots of historic buildings as well as more modern architecture. And it has great access to the whole city, especially if you have folks who want to do a little bit of West London and also a little bit of East London going over into Shoreditch. This puts you in a very central area. You can get almost anywhere from here. I think that's a really important thing to understand, because if you're all the way in West London, going over to Shoreditch can be a little bit far. So great central location, great museums. Let's start with I would say one of our favorite hotels from our site tour day, Lascar. This is a Jacques Garcia designed hotel. It is sort of dark and moody and cool. It is set in former church, and it is all themed after Oscar Wilde. We all loved this. It is the kind of place where you can sit around and have cocktails. It's beautiful rooms. It is family friendly. I think it might feel a little bit more grown up, but definitely the kind of place families are staying as well. Now, nearby is the Rosewood, which I want to mention the Rosewood because it's obviously very popular in our community and also a little bit bigger, but a great hotel, and similarly has that really kind of cool, very London vibes. One of my favorite bars in London, hands down, is the Rosewood. So definitely check that one out too. Let's move into Soho and Covent Garden. Soho, technically London's former red light district. It was not going to feel that way these days. This is fun and buzzy and busy. Covent Garden is your theater district. There are aspects of Covent Garden that can feel a little bit touristy, but not really in the places that we're talking about. There's so many little hidden streets and alleyways that you can get a totally quiet experience also in the middle of Soho and Covent Garden, but great shopping, great restaurants, great nightlife. Now, why would people want to be here? Kind of like we were saying over with Holborn and Bloomsbury, you're really in the middle of everything. So you can get over west to more of the parks, you can get over east, but also you can get to the theater. So if somebody's coming here for theater, it's a little bit like coming to New York and saying, if I'm doing a lot of theater, I might want to stay in Midtown. I would call it a little bit more charming than New York's Midtown, but certainly that's similar vibe in terms of I'm in the theater district. Now, we toured the Ham Yard Hotel. This is an incredibly special hotel. I love Firmdale hotels, and it's worth mentioning there are other Firmdales that are throughout Soho and Covent Garden. Ham Yard is their largest hotel, and so we went and toured that one to get a sense of what it is. It's the Kit Kemp design. It's fun. It's playful. This is not a stark or super contemporary look. It's definitely got a lot of energy and personality to it. It also has residences. Other things it has: a bowling alley, a rooftop garden that feels like an English garden in the middle of the city with a water fountain and flowers and trees and an amazing bar. It really is the kind of hotel that I think you could check into and just kind of spend a couple days there and never leave. Not that you want to. You didn't come to London just to sit in a hotel, but I'd be pretty happy to sit here for a couple days. Nearby is the Savoy. This is totally different. So we wanted to highlight it because I think it comes up a lot as a very famous hotel, and it is sort of near here too, but totally different. This is much more old world, much more classic. The thing that you've got here is amazing river views, and also the American Bar is a great spot to go to for a very classic cocktail experience. Gucci actually started his career here at the Savoy as a bellman, and so he was, as a bellhop, he was carrying luggage, got inspired by seeing people's beautiful luggage, and decided to go back to Italy and start designing luggage himself. And there you go. There came Gucci. Westminster, moving a little farther west. So we're inching towards West London, inching towards the parks. We're going to talk about Westminster. This is many of the most iconic landmarks are here. Again, if you want to be very close to everything, you are here. But I'm excited to talk about these hotels because where these hotels are on Whitehall, it feels very, very quiet and very not touristy at all. So you are just a couple blocks to the Churchill War Rooms, but you are in the middle of something that feels really peaceful. We're going to start with the Raffles. It is the old war offices and it's become a hotel. So if you're looking at this picture right here, this is actually the suite that was an office where the date for D-Day was chosen. So when you're walking through this hotel, you are like living in history. Churchill's office is a suite now. All of this that you'll see around has to do with the history of London, and it just feels like something where you just kind of can't believe that you're inside it. Also, great dining, so a bunch of different restaurants and bars, amazing indoor pool too, great hotel to spend time in, but also one where, again, history buffs, whether they be old or young, this is one they have to know about. And now there's the Corinthia. The Corinthia was really one of the early luxury hotels that opened in this area. And I know they fought a bit of an uphill battle first of trying to explain to people, why would you stay here versus over in Mayfair? They definitely set the stage for the other hotels to come. And boy, do we appreciate it. It's also a very, very cool hotel that a lot of celebrities choose because it was more private, a little bit more quiet here. Much different in terms of the design. This is much more contemporary, but like over at the Raffles, great bars, great scene, also an amazing spa here. So definitely a place for those who plan to do a bit of the London, but also want to relax. Rubens, I wanted to mention too, this is one that much more quintessential old school England. Next, Mayfair. This is an area where there's a real cluster of high-end hotels. You are next to the park. There are amazing restaurants, high-end shopping. Everything that a lot of visitors are looking for in London is right here in Mayfair. And let's start with the Four Seasons. Four Seasons is fully renovated now. They've added a new restaurant, which is very, very cool. One of my favorite things about this hotel is they've got a spa on the top floor that has incredible views from it. Moving over into Browns, I have an absolute obsession with this hotel. It's the oldest hotel in London. It's quirky. It's full of personality. When you walk through the hallways of it, you'll notice the hallways sort of creaking and going up and down at the different levels because it was multiple townhouses that were brought together in order to create this hotel. It is, yes, a 5-star hotel, but feels very different from some of the others. We love the Roccoforte design. It's always colorful and different. It's like a mix of contemporary and classic. Also, very cool bar. I feel like I'm talking about bars, and that's because you go to a lot of cool ones in London, but definitely a great cocktail bar scene at night. So this is sort of a chic, upscale Mayfair place. But this hotel, I think, again, it flies under the radar, I think, for certain travelers. Maybe they're not familiar with the Roccoforte brand, but oldest hotel in London and truly one of the best. Now the Arts Club. You may know that London, it's rife with very chic, very private members clubs, and you can't get into most of them, but you can in this one if you stay here. So the Arts Club, which is in Mayfair, actually just right down the street from Browns, has 8 hotel rooms. They are beautiful. They are unique. You feel like you are staying in someone's home, and in a way you are, because when you stay there, you are a member of the Mayfair Club. Now over to 45 Park Lane. Speaking of cool, it actually was the Playboy Club at one time. It feels kind of got that Art Deco, 1950s, 1960s, cool, sort of contemporary, but in that era vibe. It is a little bit darker, a little bit more masculine, I would say, in terms of the design. Really one of the best bits of service you're going to get here. It's the brother hotel of the Dorchester, which we'll talk about next. Great rooms, really spacious. You look like you're in a meadow, but you're actually in the middle of the city and you're looking at Hyde Park. So you're directly across the street from Hyde Park. Amazing property. Now to the Dorchester. I just love this hotel. This was a property. It is so legendary. It's been around for so long. It's right next to 45 Park Lane, right across the street from Hyde Park. And it is so known for its service, but it also became known for really needing a renovation, and it got it. This is just a place that it's like a see and be seen, and it is also like an icon coming back to life. I cannot recommend it enough. Even if you're not staying, just go by and have a drink or have a meal. It's super special, and we love, love, love the Dorchester. Now we are moving farther over, so other side of sort of around the corner at Hyde Park to Knightsbridge. So Knightsbridge is, you've got Harrods, you've got the park. This is sort of high-end, beautiful London, but moving a little bit more into the residential areas of Belgravia, Chelsea, South Kensington. we'll start with the Lanesborough, which is really like right at Hyde Park corner. So none of this is far walking from Mayfair, from the hotels we were just talking about. Well, the day that we did the touring, we did all of those, and then we walked over and did these. The Lanesborough is part of the Edgar collection. You'll see it's very classic. So if you're thinking of the Bristol or Hotel du Cap Eden Rock in the south of France, this is their property in London. I think sometimes people forget that they have one there, and it's super special. Incredible afternoon tea, known for that. Very classic rooms, and the same look for those who have loved the Edgar properties in other places. Moving on, and a very different look, something much more contemporary, is the Barkley. This is part of the Mayborn group, which we had mentioned earlier, where you've got a little bit more contemporary look. I would say of the Mayborn group, this is their more contemporary one. They've also got Claridge's and the Connaught, which would be a little bit more classic, the Connaught being most boutique-y, Claridge's being the real classic, sort of grande dame. Barkley is their sort of more sexy and contemporary one. And the Emery, which we mentioned earlier, is right around the corner from it. And then the Mandarin Oriental. This hotel is very different, I'd say, from the inside than what it looks like from the outside. It has a lot of really nice surprises. So this one, you are easy walking from the Barkley, but you are directly on Hyde Park. There is not a road between you and the park. In fact, they have a royal gate which opens directly out onto the park that they are only allowed to open with the king's permission. So this is truly like a piece of London and sort of royal London that you're staying in. The royal guard goes by every morning. You can watch the horses pass as you're eating your breakfast. Really special. But the rooms, despite the outside, if somebody looks at the outside and goes, oh, it looks very classic, I like a more contemporary vibe. The rooms are definitely the Mandarin Oriental style. So a little bit of Asian flair, lighter in color, and really, really gorgeous. All right, moving into Belgravia. So this is actually the area that I was staying in this time. And I had not stayed here before. I'd stayed more in the other areas, and it was fun to get to be here because it definitely, although you're very close to all of these, it starts to feel really residential and more smaller shops. So less of the big brands that you'd get over on Bond Street in Mayfair, and a little bit more sort of smaller shops, some smaller cafes, very fancy. These are very high end, but a little bit more residential. I'd say it's a little bit more like the residential parts of the Upper East Side in New York versus like the Fifth Avenue. I loved it over here though. And so we're going to talk first about the Peninsula. I was arguing whether this is in Belgravia or Knightsbridge because they're all kind of right there together, but they said they're Belgravia, so they know better than I do, and we're going with it. This is a new opening. This is a big deal. I am obsessed for a few reasons. Well, one, Peninsula, it's known for its service. It's fantastic. It's also known for its check-in at any time, which is a really big deal for those of us that are flying over on those overnight flights and landing at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, having not slept. It is contemporary. This is definitely more of that Peninsula look. If somebody's, loves that super colorful Ferndale look, this is going to be something really different. The other thing that I loved about it is the rooms are spacious. Rooms are quiet. Many of them have big dressing rooms and closets. Como, you may know, we've talked about it in Parrot Key, one of my favorite hotels in the world down in Turks and Caicos. This is their London property. This one, I think, sometimes gets forgotten. It had like a real heyday moment, and then sometimes people forget it's there. It is well priced. It is well located, and you might find room even when other places are busier because sometimes people forget that it exists. We love it. It also has apartments attached to it, which again are like not crazy prices. So good one to remember for people who are coming in, might be having longer stays, want more of an apartment. It's not in the hotel, but right around the corner. So you have your own entrance, and the rooms themselves, spacious, simple, peaceful, a great one to know about. And then the Cadogan. This is where I stayed. I had toured this hotel before. I had not stayed. And now I am like fully obsessed with this property. If you know Belmond hotels, you probably think of Belmond as very classic and romantic. You're thinking of Cipriani in Venice or La Residencia in Mallorca. Their London property feels pretty contemporary, not in the sense of being sort of super modern in the design, but kind of hip and vibey and cool. This has an incredible history to it. Oscar Wilde was actually arrested in the bathroom of one of these suites. Lots of sort of supermodels and rock stars have come through here. It feels very private. They actually, for those, if you have a celebrity client, there is a private entrance. They can bring people in on the side. But also, especially if you're having been out all day in London, you come back here and you kind of feel like you're coming home. It's a small lobby. They know every guest that walks through there. There's a candy cart there too if you've got a sweet tooth. It really, although it is it has, I think, around 50 rooms, it is one where it feels like more of a townhouse environment where they're just really there to take care of you. I loved this hotel. Every single room is different. This is one where, although I was in one junior suite and Laura from our team was in another junior suite, we were in the same exact category. They looked entirely different. So that makes it really fun too. There's a lot of personality here. Definitely one to put on your radar if you haven't checked it out yet. And now the Carlton Tower. This one we didn't tour, but I wanted to just make a mention of it because it's a beautiful hotel, beautiful rooms, and because it's a tower and it's right on the same park as the Cadogan, you have incredible views over the city. This is sort of like feels like a live in London vibe. I wish I'd had more time. There's a lot to explore. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining this week. And please tune in next week where we will be joined by the amazing Brian Lonergan from our team. And we will be talking about Tokyo. I know everyone is keen to learn more about Japan, and Brian just got back. So tune in next week. Everything to know, the neighborhoods, the hotels, what to see and do. Tokyo is coming your way.